Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn. Who else? Still here. I love it. And to talk about this, still here, all the way over in South Africa. I'm joined yet again by Errol Musk. How are you, Errol?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Hey, surviving. I talk about surviving. The UK at the moment, we talk about Starmageddon and how that's sort of basically people being taxed, they're having innovation being sort of cut back and so on and so forth. We're talking about, and this is the thing that we're focusing on because we're just about to have the budget. So Rachel Reeves' first budget here in the UK, and they're all talking about people destroying the country, destroying innovation with insane tax rises. We've had people who are being driven out of the country because they can no longer afford the tax. They basically say go off to a tax haven. It makes more sense. What's your take on Starmageddon?
Well, what I've seen with the Starmageddon or the Starmer government that's come in is a sudden im impulsive need to control people and control in not only their response to illegal immigration, but control people in all sorts of ways. Such as their heating fuel requirements and what you've just said now about increasing taxes without the general approval of the population. What I would say about control is this: human beings cannot be controlled. And I've made the point that you can't even control your own children. And I'd like to see the person, I'd like to meet the person who says to me, "Oh, I can control my children." I haven't met such a person yet, and I don't think such a person exists. And I'm not talking about controlling by the whip or something. I'm talking about controlling in the sense that you are able to happily tell them what to do and they do it. The thing is, people will only be controlled up to the point that they allow you to control them, and to the point at which they are happy to be controlled. So, if you take a situation like traffic policemen, now, no one I know, well, I mean, they're obviously lovely traffic policemen, but no one I know likes to see a traffic policeman when he's driving along because suddenly becomes worried that he may have infringed somewhere along the way or something to that effect. And certainly not one behind you, driving behind you. And even if it's just by chance and they're not for you. But so we don't like them. We don't like traffic policemen, you might say. However, if you were given the option of controlling the situation and saying, well, we're not having them anymore, you would be, you'd think, because pretty soon you'd see a traffic policeman stopping Andrew and not me. And you'd say, well done, well done. Andrew deserves to be stopped. He's always going too fast. You see what I mean? So we're very happy to see someone else stopped by a traffic policeman, and we're very happy with that. So we say, that's right. That's what should have happened. And we want that control. So we're not going to do away with that control. And it is a control. And then you get all sorts of controls. And you might extend that to government controls. So then you look at, and I come back again, people are only prepared to be controlled up to the point that they agree to be controlled and are happy to be, and they allow themselves to be controlled. So you might say you take Nazi Germany, and this is quite important. All those people appeared to accept the fact that they were being controlled. Obviously, there were dissidents, but generally speaking, the population went along with it. Therefore, you have to come to a conclusion that, on that basis, that all of Germans are, or most Germans, are complicit in the Nazi regime. They must have been complicit, because you will only be controlled up to the point that you're quite happy to have those controls upon you. Now, in England, they have introduced controls where they have put people who are everyday people, everyday nice people, no doubt. I've no doubt whatsoever, very nice people who are fed up with the situation, and it might have been a traffic cop, but in this case, it's It's to do with objecting to unbridled illegal immigration, or people just being allowed into the country, or coming into their towns and changing their towns in ways that they don't like. And they are being jailed for that. Now, this is control that I would not see someone else being subjected to and say, I'm okay with that. Are you with me? This has gone beyond that. I would not be okay with that. So it's not the traffic cop scene. It's not the traffic cop situation. You've now gone, STARMER has gone beyond what people will allow within themselves, that they are happy to be controlled about. He's gone beyond that. And he's created a situation where he's doing things that I would imagine at least the majority of people would say, I would not vote for that control, where I will vote for the traffic cops and the policemen and the traffic wardens and the meter maids and all that sort of stuff, happily, even though I'm a victim sometimes. But I will not vote for or accept the control that STARMER is introducing in this country. And I think he's gone beyond the point that people will allow. They will not allow it. I think it stands to reason. It's within reason to say that if there was an election held now in England, he would not be re-elected.
Yeah. I have to agree, Errol. I mean, it's a point that we've often made, and there's been a lot of criticism about him. And firstly, on the policing side, and I always say that trust comes in on foot, but leaves on horseback. And what's happening? We've had various riots, we've had various protests, and so on and so forth, and people have been arrested, and it seems very swift justice, depending on people airing particular views, particularly about immigration, as you say. And he's got this sort of label about two-tier Keir. Now they're basically a two-tier policing situation. Well, what's your take on that?
Well, yes, I think it's obviously two-tier. I mean, as Elon, I don't know if Elon came up with that phrase, but I heard he did come up with that phrase, two-tier Keir. But at any rate, you can't have a situation where people get together, and here again, it's about allowing control. People are intelligent enough to know that we do need controls. You can't, for example, decide, I'm going to do this and this in the center of town, in the main street, in the middle of the road today, and I like what I'm doing. I'm going to set off fireworks. There's a control that says, no, you're not allowed to do that. You can do it on a certain day of the year, maybe 5th of November or something, Guy Fawkes Day. You can't do it anymore when you want. There's 3 controls. And so there are controls that we all agree with and we all vote for and we're all happy with. And sometimes one of your friends will come and say, oh, this and this, I got nailed for doing this and this. And if you're a good friend of that person, you'll say, what if your name is John or whatever it is, you deserve that. And I'm not sympathetic for you. I'm sorry you got it, but I'll always be your friend. But I think you deserve that. It was coming for you. And that's where we're happy with those kind of controls. But STARMER has gone beyond that. And then you come to this two-tier system. People get together in a so-called riot. I never saw any riots of the nature that I would actually call it a riot. I'd call it a gathering of people in the street where a lot of people, it could have been a fair for all that matter. It could have been, the annual street market or something like that, for all it could have been. There was nobody doing anything really bad. To
be fair, some of them did, Errol. Some of them were burning down hotels and things like that.
I saw a police car being turned over, but I think that was in a Muslim district. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I don't agree with that. And those people should be held to book for that. They should pay for it, actually. But what I did see was people coming together and saying, look, we're not happy. You have to listen to us. We're not happy. And for them, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of policemen. These were people objecting to, for what I saw, was unbridled illegal immigration, right, or just allowing people to come into the country and receive. I don't know what the actual objections were. It could have been just that there's too many people. It's messing up our towns, Our facilities can't
part
cope
of the
with it.
problem, I don't know, this is widely reported in South Africa, but certainly it hit the headlines here, was that there was the murder of three little girls at a
Oh,
Taylor
yes,
Swift
yes,
dance
yes.
party in
Well,
Southport.
that you can understand would set off the spark, because that's not the first time it would have happened. It would have been probably the, 23rd time it's happened, or something like that, or something to that effect. So when an isolated incident occurs, people don't do that. It's where it suddenly tips. It's that last drop that, drips, causes the beaker to overflow.
Yeah,
And
I think it was a very sensitive situation. What happened though is there was misinformation which was spread by a Channel 3. Now it was apparently associated with Russia. I've looked into the station. They've
yeah,
only got about 3,000 followers on Twitter, or X as we now call it. And basically it was that misinformation saying about the person who murdered those three little girls, saying that he was an illegal immigrant. He wasn't an illegal immigrant, but that is what started. And a lot of the victims' families were turning around and saying, look, how dare they hijack our grief? And what has basically the murder of three little girls got to do with looting shops and taking televisions and so on and so forth?
I, um, of course, that's got nothing to do with that. I'm not sure that I don't know which crowd was doing that, and a crowd like that would need policing, and I would agree to the policing to stop that immediately and arrest them and make them pay for the damage that they've done. But a lot of the stuff I saw was people getting together, and it comes just to protest. I saw a lot of that, and um, I can only imagine that although the this incident that took place, this terrible, terrible murders that took place, it appeared as though it was because it was a person of color who killed these children, that it was an immigrant, and possibly an illegal immigrant. It was something that tipped the scales.
Yeah.
It tipped the scales. It's not as though there must have been other incidents that have built this up to a point where that could have been interpreted in that way.
Yeah,
and I'm fairly
I think you're right. It's a sensitive situation. Well, the particular person was he was born in the UK. He had parents from
yes, but
Rwanda, I
nevertheless,
think, originally.
it was something that was interpreted
Yeah,
as adding to all previous things that may have happened,
yeah.
because people don't respond like that to an isolated incident. It must have been. I'm very sure that it must have been something that followed on other things that had happened
Oh no,
to put people.
and without a doubt, illegal immigration has been a hot topic in our election.
Yes,
It's a hot topic in the election
yes.
in the States, and how the party is supposed to be handling that. But they seem to also be clamping down on freedom of speech. And it's Descartes who would say, "Look, I think, therefore I am arrested." Would be the
Well,
would be the new
that's what
version.
it led to. It led to that, but in the beginning, they were just, you're talking about the two-tier policing
Yeah,
to start with. They were bringing in hundreds of policemen to these particular protests, and then when they had protests that were by the Muslim communities or Indian communities or whatever community it was, I would say, the other side of the thing, the coin, there were no police. There were no police. I saw pictures of men, perhaps you might say Middle Eastern descent, running with curved knives in their hands, running around saying Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. So there were no police for that. So obviously, anyone with half a brain would say that's two-tier policing. Now you move on to the next thing, and that is that jailing people for saying things. And I think I read about a couple who got 20 months in prison for posting on Facebook that they want their country back, and they gave the names. And there were others quite similar. And one was an old man. When I say old man, he was younger than me, but he was an older man, and he said that something, he just made a sort of he's not putting up with it anymore, and to hell with it. This has got to stop, or something to that effect. It wasn't much, because anything that someone might say if they're very angry, or if they've been pushed a little bit, and he was jailed, And I saw the judge jailing him and saying that he would like to, he would prefer not to, but unfortunately, this is so serious, he's making it a custodial sentence. I think that's ridiculous. So now you have a situation that coming back to what I was saying, people will allow themselves to be controlled up to a point. And that's across the board. When you go beyond that, they're not allowing that anymore. And now you are inviting the things that we've tried to do away with over the last 2,000 years. And that is revolts and war and internal war and so forth. So you can't there's a limit to what you can do. And STARMER has clearly exceeded that limit. There's no doubt about it. He's clearly exceeded that limit. And these people, when they were jailed, I said, I'm sure they'll let them loose. They'll release them in a week or so. Surely they'll have the brains to release them in a week or so. Because I come back to my own life in England. South Africa is different. We had a very strange, otherwise sort of situation in South Africa when I grew up here. But when I was in England, it was like a heavenly place. As a child, I went there as a child of 10. I left as a child of 12. It was heaven to me. The adults loved children. Adults loved children. I came from a country where children were given a hiding for what we call a hiding for the least offense, and were never allowed to share adult company and so forth. It was somewhat Germanic or something like that. I don't know what the right term would be in South Africa. And then as a boy, I went over to England. And of course, when I was at school, we were caned regularly. The children, even the girls, were slapped with rulers and stuff, and for the slightest infringement. And then I went to England as a boy, and I went there to school, and I couldn't believe how much I came to the conclusion these adults like children. I mean, they actually like children. I couldn't believe it. It was just wonderful. England was wonderful. It was such an eye-opener for me, and to be in a place where you were treated so decently by everybody, but by the adults. And, things that were set up for children still to this day amaze me. But at any rate, and if you saw this is the point I was getting. If you saw a policeman, and policemen, we all knew they don't have to carry weapons or anything in England, because if a policeman said to you, you're not to do that, or come here, my boy, you did. You didn't. You went and stood soldierly in front of him and said, what? And the policeman was just like some super person.
Yeah. And it's about respect, isn't it? And you turn around and growing up, people used to respect the police. There's now been so many instances where, as you say, trust is at an all-time low, and trust comes in on foot but leaves on horseback.
Well, that's what happened when you go beyond the controls.
Yeah. And the other thing about the government controlling us, and it was Edward Bernays who would say, look, the easiest way of persuading the population is through fear. Fear is the most persuasive human emotion of all. And we get that, whether it's in lockdown, we get that about the risk of all these riots and things like that. And actually, this is why they're trying to introduce rules and regulations to basically take away human rights. Is that a fair summary?
Well, yes, they're doing that. When people start doing that, it's clear that they themselves are doing something wrong. And you only have to do that. Coming back to your policeman, he always did the right thing. So it was never a case of someone saying the policeman told, when I was a boy, I mean, the policeman told, the constable, or I don't think we called them policemen, I called them constable or something, told us we're not to go that way. And if you went that way, you were wrong. Or if the bridge was closed or whatever it was, or Clifton Bridge, I remember, or something like that. Yes. Suspension Bridge was closed today. That meant you can't go there. That was it. The constable said no. That meant you don't go there. Didn't mean you sneak around the side or something like that. And if you did, you were berated by your own people. But now they've gone. They themselves are doing things that are wrong, and in the process of doing that, they are introducing rules that people will not abide by. They simply will not abide by. And you're making a big mistake to think that people are going to abide by such rules. They are not going to abide by such rules. There comes a point where you've exceeded the threshold of being able to control people.
Right.
They must all agree before you can do that. It must be agreed that traffic policemen are necessary. It must be agreed that meter maids are necessary, and so forth. And if you don't do that, then you've gone beyond what people will allow.
Sure.
And they will then turn on you.
Yeah, no, I think you make some very interesting points there, Errol. I want to just turn to innovation because I always say, look, back to the futurist, as I call myself a futurist. And I always want to put the AI into Britain. And we had the wonderful safety summit here last year. Elon came along to that. What's his view of STARMER and innovation and where we stand at the moment on the world stage?
Well, Elon has been looking for more European factories for Tesla, obviously. And England, of course, would be a number one, would be in the top 3 lists or something to that effect, France, England. And so, again, he's looking at a society that is not going to create more problems for him government-wise or whatever, how you might put it. He would be looking for a place that is understanding and so forth. And so from his point of view, and you take X, for example, which is much more to the point, I suppose, where people, as far as Elon is concerned, are allowed now to express themselves. Of course, they can't say things that are illegal or criminal, but they can express themselves on any issue. And that's not how Twitter was. Twitter was they cancelled you if you tweeted certain things that they thought were. So, for example, if you tweeted Christianity, I'm a Christian and I'm happy to be a Christian, and I've no reason to ever tell anybody anything different. But if you put it on Twitter, they cancel you for some reason. I don't know what they think they were doing, but at any rate, so in England now becomes a place where they have to think twice. Elon has to think twice. This bloke, I heard that Elon offered to buy the platform, the Telegram. I'm not sure if he did, but I think he offered to buy it, and they took the Telegram MD and CEO.
Yes, Durov. He was arrested in France. Absolutely,
or arrested at any rate, and this is then people like Elon are looking twice at where they're going to spend the billions, and the billions that they spend are very important, because when you build a factory in an area of the kind that Elon builds, be it solar panels, be it whatever it is, robots or Teslas or space rockets or whatever it is, it's usually about £5 billion, enough to shake the economy, enough to turn the economy around in certain ways. And so he's now having to think twice about things like that.
And I guess there are 2 things there, aren't there? One is the over-regulation and the fear of being arrested, because that's the thing which happened to, as you say, the Telegram situation. And the other is the tax situation. And they sort of say that basically 1%, the top 1% of the people pay 30% of the tax in the UK. So if you overtax them, you're going to drive them away. What's Elon's take on that?
Well, yes. You see, here we come back to control. Now, when I pay my tax, let's say, I might go to you or friends and say, oh, I paid my tax. I'll get no sympathy, because that's what I'm due to pay. And everybody's doing the same thing. And I might complain about it. They say, but Errol, you made more money. That's why you paid a bit more tax than I have. Last year I made more money than you, and I paid more tax than you. But we accept that, because that's the control that we've all agreed to. We've all agreed to that. But when you go beyond that, and when you go beyond the limit of that people accept as being allowable, where I would be able to go to you or to somebody and say, this is what they tax me, and you agree, and the other man agrees, and they all agree that I have been badly treated or this is wrong, then you are turning the people against you, and that's a dead-end street.
Yeah.
That's a dead-end street.
Yeah.
And if you want to simplify it, you take 10 men and you put them on an island, and you say, 8 of you are going to forage water, fruit, and whatever. One of us is going to decide on things. The rest of you will forage fruit, build shelters, and I'll have one assistant who's going to keep track of things. But when it becomes, after a few months, there's 4 of you with the leader, and 4 of you are now foraging, and then after a while, there's 6 of you with the leader and 2 foraging. Then people say, wait, there's something wrong here. Yeah. There can't be 8 guys deciding what the 2 guys must do to keep everything going. No. And so you exceeded the point at which people are happy to be controlled. Yeah. When it starts out and the leader says to the 8 that have been given foraging jobs, get more water, off he goes. So get more fruit, off he goes. No complaints. But when you start changing the balance of things, then reaches a point where, and it's simple, when you bring it down to that simple example of 10 men, 10 people on an island or something, then you understand it. And so you have a situation that you just described, that you've got a whole lot of people who are doing nothing, telling a few people who are doing something, that we're going to make it even harder for you.
Yeah. So in a nutshell then, Errol, and I know STARMER never misses an episode of the Andrew Eborn show. So in a nutshell, what advice would you give him in order to attract people like Elon back to the UK?
He has to go back to British standards. He has to go back to the English way. I think the English way is the American was the birthplace of the American way. So he has to go back to the English way of fairness and the right thing, and there are so many things that they've been doing that I don't understand, such as this unbridled, I think it's crazy, this unbridled allowing of people to come into the country, from basically third world countries, and providing 4-star accommodation for them and all. I don't understand it. It's happening in so many countries that one has to come to the conclusion that somebody else is telling these countries, some body of men or people is telling each country what they have to do. They're getting their orders from somebody. But anyway, the things they're doing are simply crazy. And so odd that one cannot make sense of it. I was invited to a talk at Westminster Abbey. I was invited to say a few words at Westminster Abbey in July, on the 15th of July, on the 30th anniversary of the end of apartheid, which was celebrated by the South African ambassador in England. And I didn't go because I had a medical situation, but I was going to go. And up to the last minute, I was still thinking of going. And because I didn't apply for my visa, although I'm eligible for a British passport, my mother was British, I was told that it's going to cost me £1,400 for a 3-week visa.
Right. And
I thought, well, that's totally out of the arena. It's too much. Nobody can pay that. That's far too much.
£1,400 for the visa. That's crazy.
Yes, it's crazy. I mean, a Schengen visa is £300. Not £300. No, £30. £30.
£30.
No, £40.
Yes.
£40.
Right.
Schengen visa is £40. And a British visa, if you apply 3 months before the time, is about £150. But if you have an expedited visa, which I was looking at, it's £1,400.
Right.
So why are they doing that to me? But they're letting people on rubber boats come there who've thrown their passports in the sea or whatever, and putting them in hotels. I should come that way, shouldn't
And that's the thing. It's the optics on that. So in a nutshell,
I? Doesn't make any sense.
deal with the immigration. Don't over-regulate because that's the problem, because that's stultifying innovation, and don't overtax because it has a negative effect in terms of you're driving people away. They won't invest in the UK, and you're driving
No,
the wealthiest people away, which basically means
absolutely.
the economy is going to suffer
Well,
somehow.
it's primary school logic, and standard five or grade seven people could tell you that,
Right.
and this immigration thing it's inexplicable. I can't explain it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't understand that England has Muslim districts and Pakistani districts and Hindu districts or something. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't go to Pakistan and find English districts and such like. I mean, I don't think they'd allow that.
Yeah.
Huge groups of people from England going to settle in Pakistan or in or Jordan or something, calling it the English district. I don't think it doesn't make any sense.
It should be about integration, isn't it? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. That's what you're doing. And
Yeah, so there appears to be a sort of forced form of genetic um, spreading or sharing. In other words, it almost appears as though someone has decided that we need to import genes into our country, possibly because we are too much of the same crowd for too long. We need to bring fresh genes to the country or something like that. If somebody explains it to me like that, I might think, oh, maybe you're right there. I don't know.
Right.
That's what people do with horses. So I imagine one would do that with people too. But otherwise, it's inexplicable. It doesn't make any sense. If I think of an English village, I was in Chippenham a little while ago.
Yes.
You just want to walk up and down, walk up and down, walk up and down. I mean, you walk to one end and you go to the other end. Let's walk back to the other end. Let's walk back to the other end. Let's keep walking up and down all day. It's just so amazing to see an English village like Chippenham. And if you've ever been there, it's so beautiful.
Beautiful. We have many beautiful villages, and
it's
you're right.
So beautiful.
We need to make Britain great again, as Elon's best bromancer buddy would say.
Who would want to turn Chippenham's main street into a Karachi scene or sort of something from Karachi? I mean, Karachi is fine, but do we need it in Chippenham? I don't think so.
Interesting.
But
Errol, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. We're going to have you back again tomorrow to discuss more of these. But for now, Errol Musk, thank you very much for joining me.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to Errol Musk, the father of Elon Musk, for his views on what STARMER and Rachel Reeves should be looking at. You need to drive innovation. You need to make sure you're not discouraging people from innovating. And you need to make sure that people like Elon come and invest in Britain. Great views. Elon will be back, or Errol will be back on his behalf at the same time tomorrow. But for me, for now, thanks very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Take care.